So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to select your images, and I suggest that you select them using Camera Raw and Bridge. So in Bridge, you are able to resize how you're looking at things. You can resize them here, so you're looking up close. You can also look at them with a little bit more detail when you're making the selections. So you can actually use this little plus button to kind of get a close-up to see if your eyes and fur feathers are detailed, and if everything looks like it's in focus. Once you've got something selected, what I suggest that you do is you use the filter tool. And the filter tool is when you, right here, oops, you can actually go ahead and put a star on your picture. And then, you can then go back and compare all of your images that you have starred. So I starred some 3 to 4 images. So now I can actually look through, having looked through and seen which ones are at least somewhat usable, then I can kind of make a decision about what photos I want to edit. So I want to try and have at least 3 really good photos from the shoot. I think some of them are really darling, so I want to make sure that I get that caricature. So like some of them I can definitely cut out right away. But you just want to be looking closely at the detail, looking at their eyes, because as focusing on the eyes, getting multiples, making sure that the background looks nice. Okay, so all of that stuff is really important. So I'm trying to, and of course we have cameras that are not as good as, you know, what a professional nature photographer is going to have. I'm using a pretty similar camera. This one was a Canon Rebel T5, and I did have a better lens than you all, but not by much. So I was able to zoom in and get a little bit closer to these pelicans, but you can still tell that it's relatively blurry. But I can still get a nice shot here. Like I think that this could still turn out nice. But if I'm really wanting to get that nice crisp look, I might want to look into some of these pictures. So here, I really like it. One thing that I'm struggling with is that I didn't get her feet. Whereas these ones, I think that one's really cool because she's doing something a little different. That one's kind of cute, but again, I cut off her feet. I think I like this one the best. So this is the one that I'm going to edit. I like it because it shows the whole bird. That's kind of a fun pose. If I want to edit this one, because I do think that it's really pretty and precious, little cute neck all up like that, what I might do is crop it a little bit more. The thing to keep in mind when you're doing these sorts of things is you want to make sure that you're cropping things to rule of thirds, but also to a standard that you would be able to print. So once I've got a picture selected, I think, yeah. Oh, it's hard to decide between those two. I think I'll do this one. All right. I'm going to use Camera Raw first. The nice thing about Camera Raw is that you can up the clarity and the texture, and that's going to really make things a little bit more clean. The danger that you are going to run into when you up the clarity and texture is that you're going to end up possibly creating some more noise. So like if I turn this all the way up, you'll notice it. So see how it kind of, I don't personally like the way that that looks. I think that it looks kind of tacky. So I don't do that. I'm gonna bring that down a little bit more, but I still really like, I turn that up a lot. Okay, I'm also going to really be paying attention to my details, right? So I love that there's like speckles of water on here. So I want to really get close and make sure that when I'm playing with these, that I'm bringing that stuff up, right? I can bring up some of the vibrance and saturation as well. But a little bit goes a long ways. If you don't, if you do too much, then it's going to be a pretty overpowering. Another thing that if you shot in Camera Raw, you're able to change some things in terms of the light here. And you can kind of get a different temperature. All right, so once you have opened it up in Photoshop, you can go ahead and crop it. I always recommend staying in a standard cropping ratio. So you could do a square, you could do a 5:7, 2:3, or 16:9. That's the size of your phone. These are just standard image sizes that will eventually print really nicely. And so I always recommend that you do that. If your image is slightly askew, you can use the straightening tool here. So if that is the case, you can always straighten looking at the horizon. So those are very useful tools. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the high pass filter, which is going to add a little extra clarity to your image. So what you're going to want to do is I always suggest that you make a copy of your image so that that way it's really easy to compare what you've done. And then you're going to go to Filter and go to Other and go to High Pass. This is going to select the edges. So you can kind of find where your sweet spot is. Okay, I don't want to get the noise, so I want it to be a little bit less than that. I want to be able to see all the detail of the bird, but not too much of the noise. So I want to be careful that I'm not selecting noise. So once I've got that selected, then I'm going to go ahead and change that, and I can look at the feathers. It might be a little easier if I'm like really close up. Okay, so now that I'm really close up, it's a little easier to see what happens. So if I just do an overlay, soft light, hard light, linear light, I think linear light makes things a little too blurry in the background. I think I'm gonna do overlay. So once I've got that selected, I think that looks really pretty good. There is definitely a little bit of noise in the picture. So if I want to, I can do a selection and I can just try and blur some of the rest of the image. So to do that, what I would do is I would probably do a Gaussian blur. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, I'm going to do a filter. I'm going to go ahead and first mask, do a mask on this high pass filter. I'm actually going to do a black mask. So to create a black mask on this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the Alt button and then do a mask. That means that it's not showing anything. And what I'm going to then do is use my brush tool. Make sure my white is selected. Make sure I have a softer brush. With a large size here. And I'm going to go ahead and select, oops. Make sure that I'm on my mask. Oops. And that my opacity is at 100. This way, my my overlay thing is only affecting my bird. That's the only thing that's getting like all that clarity. Let's see how it looks. So you can see now there's not as much noise in the background. See if I did this. And it takes time, but it's worth it. All right, so now that I've got that a lot more clarified, then I can do a Gaussian blur. I don't think I'm going to for this one, actually. I might want to play around again with my just some of my adjustments levels. So I like to go ahead and go into my curves here. Oops. Curves is always a fun one to play around with because then I can really up that clarity and change some of that. Making sure I'm not overexposing things. Yeah, I think I like that better. So now my image is just a little more moody. I've got, you know, it's kind of enhancing that shadow. I've made it a little more orange and like it's kind of like golden hour, even though it wasn't. I've upped the textures so that you see every single droplet really stands out. And I have made sure that I have added some clarity and using that high pass filter on just the bird.